Okay, thanks everyone for joining us at this IGPM webinar. We're delighted to be joined by special guests today from the RCGP Veteran Friendly Service. So I'm going to introduce to you first myself and other members of the Institute of General Practice Management. So I'm Kay Keane and I'm the practice manager at Urban Village Medical Practice. And Joe's with us today. Joe, do you want to? Oh, Joe's giving us a little wave.
Hi, yeah, no, I'm Joe Wadey. I'm one of the directors of Institute of General Practice Management as well. So thank you everyone for coming.
And Nicola and Robin are off doing general practice business today. Nicola's at her local conference and Robin's at a PCN meeting. So all doing our day job. And Joe and I, just like you, are doing this in our lunch hour. What is a lunch hour again? So we're delighted to have John with us. John, do you want to just say hello and your background for us?
Hi, yeah, I'm John Lynn. I was in the Army for 14 years. I joined in January 2000 at the age of 18 and served with the Royal Electrical and Mechanical Engineers as an electronics technician. I left in 2014 through the redundancy scheme. And during that period, I did 2 tours of Iraq in 2003, 2010.
Thank you. And delighted. Robin, I always feel I need to give a little curtsy to you. Do you want John to tell us who you are? Because it's a heck of a title.
Okay, listen, thanks very much. Well, listen, nice to see you again because we had a similar conversation about a year ago. So it really is a privilege to talk to you. So my name is Robin Simpson. I only served 35 years as a military GP. I retired on my 60th birthday, and I'm now working as an NHS GP 2 days a week, which includes today. So I'm very much an NHS GP. But the reason that I'm here is that I'm one of 2 RCGP Veterans Champions, which is a program to accredit practices as veterans friendly. And it's all about making GPs and their teams aware of the special needs of veterans. So that's my role. It's about educating teams and making them aware of the sort of issues that veterans might have that make them different to the rest of the population. So I hope that's helpful, Kay.
Sorry, just another little IT glitch. I think she's just disappeared for 2 seconds.
I'm back.
He's back. Brilliant.
Right. So, John, you said a little bit about your service, and you told me some things before the session that I think it's just interesting to hear. You did 2 tours of Iraq.
Yeah, 2003. So it was just as the war was ending over there, and then I went back in 2007 on Optelic 10, and it contrasting difference to the time we were there. The first time we went over, it was, people were kind of okay, happy to see you. And then we went back in 2010, and the journeys that you were doing in normal Land Rovers, you had to be in armored vehicles. So it was a very, very different experience, and it was almost daily rocket attacks as well.
And I don't think we can even imagine. It doesn't matter whether you see it on a a television screen or a film or whatever. It's unimaginable to us that have not been through that. So I just want to say thank you, both of you, to Robin and to John, for your service, and anybody else that's on the call today. I know there's quite a few practice managers that have come and done this job after being in one services or another. I'm really sorry if it sounds like there's a doorbell going off. It's when somebody asks to join. It's because I'm doing the chairing and the letting people in. So I apologise if that's off-putting. You also told me about your injury, John, that you had for a number of years while you were in the military, and it might be something that people haven't heard of before. So are you all right to tell us about that?
Yeah, and it kind of leads into the whole veteran friendly practices. When I left the military, or while I was in, I suffered from a non-freezing cold injury, and then when I left the military, it flared up and I was having problems. So I went to speak to my local GP, and they said they were brutally honest with me. Said it's really not something that I've had experience in. I don't know much about it, but because we're a veteran friendly practice, I'll go and find out for you and I'll get back to you. And they did. And it was through that I was referred to the veteran trauma team, and I got to go down to King Edward VII's College Hospital in London and get some pain management, go through the pain management clinic there.
And you said that really quickly, that what it was you had, and I was interested in that. So you said a non-freezing cold injury.
Yeah, I think it's something that quite a few people in the military experience. There's a place in Gosport that's kind of a world leader in looking at things like non-freezing cold injuries and how they affect you and the nerves.
Okay, so that's from your feet being wet and cold.
Yes, yeah. So basically, it was an exercise in Otterburn. I know when people think of the military in the last 20 years, they only think of hot places. But I was on exercise in Otterburn, and for a week it snowed, and I ended up with this injury.
Yeah, and I was for any of you that don't know, the practice that I work at looks after the homeless population in Manchester, and one of the things that we see with the homeless population is a similar thing. I mean, we refer to it being a bit like trench foot, so that same kind of injury. And you left in 2014. And accessed the services for and I think I need to be quite specific. It was combat PTSD rather than PTSD that a member of the general public might have.
I was never told one way or the other. So when I came out, it was before Op Courage, I think it's called now. So it was prior to that, and I went through an NHS mental health team, and it was there that I was diagnosed with PTSD, and then I had some treatment through there. Now I've spoken to lots of veterans since then, and there's kind of a mixed response. I found the NHS treatment that I received very, very helpful, and the tools that were given to me has helped me, the exercises and the breathing and all to cope. But there are certain veterans who would prefer to hear from only ex-veterans in that position. So there's kind of a mixture of which way to go. But I think Op Courage now, which I have since been referred back to, they've really helped me too.
Great. And you said that the practice that you're registered at was a veterans friendly practice. And how, when we say to you, we don't know the answer, but we'll go and find out, is that enough?
It is, because they always come back to me. And in that case, I completely understand why it was. I would rather that than have been prescribed something and sent on my way, or let's see how this goes for a couple of weeks. They said, I don't know, the resources were there in the background to reach out to other people and find something and come back to me. So yeah, it was really beneficial to me to have that support network behind GPs that they could go and find out.
And you said that some of the other veterans might not have had the same kind of experience with their practices. Is that the feeling you get when you're talking to them?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I think I've been very, very fortunate in the GP that I've selected. I didn't know that it was veteran friendly when I selected it. It was just closest to my house. Helen Hurst, who's the lead there on the veteran friendly stuff, is extremely passionate about it. And I was lucky. It shouldn't be luck. It shouldn't really be a postcode lottery. I'd hope that it would be available to everybody. But I was just fortunate, and that's why I'm here. because Helen's passion in this subject is kind of imparted onto me, and I just want to do as much as I can to get as many people signed up for it.
Brilliant. Thank you, John. And Robin, how many practices are signed up?
So thanks very much. So we're talking about NHS England, and
Yep.
so far we've got about 2,450 practices accredited, which is about 38%. So that's good news. So we're approaching 40%. The bad news is we've got 60% to go. So there's still work to do. And I really was fascinated in John's story, and I was thrilled that, you know, that practice really did understand that the needs of veterans might be different. They didn't know the answer to John's problem, but they were able to find out. And, you know, I think that's exactly what it's about. Non-freezing cold injury wouldn't be a topic that many GPs would know much about. As a military GP would be our bread and butter. So having some understanding of what John went through when he was in Otterburn would make it a lot easier. But in a busy life of a GP, John turns up. It would have been very easy for him just to get a prescription and sent on his way. But by being veterans friendly, you're just asking that question. Have you ever served in the military? Labeling John's note that he was a veteran. And once you are accredited, there's a training package which specifically will make you aware of the excellent resources that are now available to support veterans, including Op Courage, and the Veterans Trauma Network, which John mentioned, is now called Op Restore. So Op Courage is for mental health problems, and Op Restore is anyone that's got a physical problem related to the service. And that will take work away from the GP because John will actually get the treatment which we heard has helped him. And it'll actually mean that John isn't repeatedly going back to his practice. So being veterans friendly, as well as providing better care for veterans, will actually mean that the veterans get the care that they need and will take away work from the busy GP.
That's great. And Robin, just tell us again how you get accredited. What do we need to do?
Okay, so everything I'm about to say, if you just Google RCGP Veterans Friendly, RCGP Veterans Friendly, that will take you to the link. So to be an accredited practice, first of all, I think it's something that you want to do. You need to nominate a clinician who will be the clinical lead. It doesn't need to be a GP partner, but it does need to be a clinician. And someone like the practice manager needs to fill in the form, which is, you know, a very basic form, which someone like UK, I'm sure, could do in no more than 12 minutes. By signing up, what you're signing up to is the fact that you will be a veterans friendly practice. You will record the fact that someone like John is a veteran. So if it was John was a new patient, on the new patient form, or if it's online, that question is asked, have you ever served in the military? And then it's about transferring that information into the problem page, just writing military veteran, and that'll be picked up as a SNOMED code. I'm not going to give you a lecture on SNOMED codes. So then we will know that John is a veteran.
I've just flipped to those slides, Robin. So I've just done some slides that show those codes, so people will get a copy of those.
We'll just stick to military veteran. We'll keep it simple.
Yeah.
And that means then we've got a code, and we know that John's a veteran. We know because there's 1.74 million veterans in the UK that each principal in general practice, with a list size of about 1,800, should have 30 or 40 veterans. So you multiply the number of partners by 30 or 40, you'll get the number of veterans that you should have. The other thing about signing up is that you're actively looking out for veterans. So we picked up the new patient veterans, but you're also always looking for opportunities to find out that someone is a veteran. Now, unfortunately, John talked a little bit about his PTSD, but typically veterans are blokes, 90% are blokes, and they're absolutely hopeless about talking about mental health problems. And they're likely to present the GP with headaches, tired all the time. They're not going to say, actually, I was on patrol in Iraq and I still get flashbacks. So encouraging all clinicians in a veteran-friendly practice to more often than not ask that question, have you ever served in the military, might well be a light bulb moment in connecting, first of all, the veteran will be interested that you're interested in the fact that they're a veteran. And secondly, it'll be fairly obvious that maybe his service in Iraq is now contributing to his present contribution. And because you're veterans friendly, you're aware of Op Restore. So there really are good resources to help you. So being a veterans friendly practice is a very straightforward process. Nominate a clinical need, practice manager fills in the form, takes less than 15 minutes, and it's you as a practice committing themselves to being veteran friendly in a way that John exactly described. Once you are accredited, there are some resources, a couple of podcasts where I might appear, and it's really just making you aware of the resources that are available and giving you that confidence to ask that question, have you ever served in the military? John doesn't expect the GP to be a world expert in veterans injuries, and indeed they didn't know about non-freezing cold injuries, but by being inquisitive and asking, the veteran will be really impressed that you're interested in their background, as a result, they will then be able to go on and get the treatment which is now available through the NHS. I hope that's helpful, Kay.
Yeah, it is. It's really helpful. I just wondered if we could just touch on military families at this point as well, because there are codes about that you could add that to people's records. Do you think that's useful?
So absolutely, and you're quite right to pick me up. If my wife was listening, she'd give me a hard time that I haven't mentioned the wives of veterans. You know, behind every veteran, there's usually a partner. And we've been talking about veterans, but you know, as a family, in my 35 years, I've lived in 23 different houses. My kids were born in Germany. They've lived all over the world. So if you ask them where were they brought up, they don't say a particular place because actually they've moved a lot. So military families are different. So recording that information would also be helpful. And Op Courage is available to families of veterans as well as veterans. Of course, okay. The problem has to be as a result of their service. It may be that there's lots of problems, but one of them is related to their service, and that, you know, that would count. So you're entirely right. And we talk mainly about veterans, but behind every veteran there's a family, and the veterans' families may have similar problems to the veteran as well. Often when the veteran presents, there's lots of things. They tend to drink too much. Inevitably, that's going to impact on their relationships within the family. And the family are just as likely to need help as the veteran themselves.
Yeah. So when we ask that question, so we often have it on our registration forms, you know, have you been, are you? Should we be saying, have you or a member of your household? Well, how do we...
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm thrilled that you're asking me that question because it means that you're asking. So, you know, if a perfect answer would be yes, ask the veteran. It's largely blokes who are veterans, 90%, increasing number of women, but not yet. But you know, asking, you know, when you look in someone's notes, you might find that there's a large gap, and it may be that it's a family of a veteran and they've moved around a lot. So, I think that is also helpful. And the families of veterans are similarly affected. I don't know whether John had a partner when he was in Iraq, but you know, my last tour in Afghanistan in 2014 was pretty much like hell. You know, I was seeing some pretty horrible things, exactly the sort of things that we're seeing on the news every single night now. I was seeing it every single day. And when a military person is killed or there's a problem while they're serving, there's a news blackout. So for 24 hours, the internet is turned off from Camp Bastion back to UK, and everyone who's a family of a military person is assuming that it's their hubby or spouse that's been injured or worse than that. Then the next day they'll say what unit it was, and that's a bit of a sigh of relief. It's not your unit. And then the next day they'll usually say the name. But every time that something like that happened in Afghanistan, every family in UK that have got someone that's serving there, you know, their life stops because they assume the worst. So it's fairly obvious that families are going to be affected by military service just as much as veterans.
Yeah, yeah, it does. It when you talk about it in those terms, it really, you know, it brings it home, doesn't it? Because we're all seeing those awful pictures on the news every night now. And we're talking about young people, so we might be talking about parents and grandparents as well. Hey, so someone at 18, 20, as John said, you went in at 18, didn't you? So that's a worry for the whole family.
Yeah, could I just touch on something that Robin mentioned there?
Yeah.
I struggled a lot with alcohol as well, as a way to battle my demons. And I often say that this program not only saved my life, but it saved my marriage as well. What my wife was able to do was ring up the clinic or ring up the GPs and say, my husband is struggling with alcohol. And she dragged me down there and she came in with me to the GP, and I got to hear her side of it with the GP, and we put in a plan to get rid of or to cut down on the alcohol and get myself kind of on the road to recovery in that way as well. So being able to say that I'm a veteran spouse is also helpful, as Robin mentioned.
That's great, thank you. Yeah, it just all comes to life when we're thinking about it, when there's a real person in front of us. It's easy. Robin said it would take someone as clever as me 12 minutes to sign up, but signing up for the document is the easy bit. It's the doing, isn't it? It's the making sure we're being inclusive every day that's the important part. So Robin, you said there's some training available, and webinars like this, there's podcasts available for practices. Are there also other people like you across the country that can support practices?
So yeah, I'm one of two. So although I'm a Scot, this particular program is NHS England. There are similar processes happening in Scotland, and there isn't a similar process in Wales, but I think that there are specific veteran services evolving in Wales, so they're not there yet. And the RCGP, of course, covers the whole of the United Kingdom, and we're very happy to help any of the other devolved nations.
Great.
Northern Ireland is different. I don't know whether you have any members on this call from Northern Ireland, but being a veteran in Northern Ireland is different, and it's a really sensitive area, and many more veterans in Northern Ireland wouldn't want to tell anyone that they'd served in the military. So that's a separate topic. I'm just saying it's a difficult area.
Yeah.
And everything that I've said is specific to NHS England, but there's similar schemes in Scotland and Wales for veterans.
Great, thank you. And it just kind of strikes me that the key people always are our reception teams. So our reception teams noticing and maybe asking some of these questions as well is interesting. So if you've got and it's not just a young person, is it, Robin? It's I think you told me last time we spoke that military service, what was it called when you were called up automatically? So anyone who's over the age of 70 something will have been.
Okay, so more than 60% of veterans are over the age of 50. As we approach Remembrance Sunday and the cenotaph, and hopefully that will go well on Sunday, you tend to think of old blokes with medals, and anyone who's over the age of 83 and a bloke is likely to have done national service. So when you're doing your flu vaccinations, anyone that's over the age of 83 is very likely have done national service, and probably wouldn't tell you that they're a veteran, because why would they? But half of veterans are under the age of 60 and are more akin to John, and they all have served in Afghanistan and Iraq, exactly like John and me. So looking at the older population, I'm sure that you can think of relatives that unfortunately served in the Second World War and have now passed away, and you're kicking yourself that you never talked about what they did during the war. And actually their coping strategy was not to talk about it. We know that's not good. So, there is help available for the older veteran as well. And each principal in general practice should have about 30 or 40 of the veterans, and about half of them are going to be in that older age group. And again, the reception staff asking the question, having a poster up in your waiting room, or if a reception team are sending out accurate text messages, come for your flu vaccine, including please tell us if you're a veteran, will be something else that the reception team can do to try and recognize more of your veterans. Because I think that recognition is key. There are great resources now available to help and support you, but you've got to know that someone's a veteran in the first place, or a family of a veteran, to be able to provide them with that support.
And if you didn't make it through your kind of first 6 months, are you still a veteran?
So the definition, and I saw that message in chat. The definition of a veteran is served 1 day or more,
right,
in the regular or reserves. But the reality is the majority by far serve more than 10 years. So,
okay.
John's length of service would you agree, John, would be fairly average? So yes, a small number of people leave after 1 day in basic training, but that's an unusual result. By far the majority serve 10 years or more.
Okay. Great. And I think, John, you said you would have done your 20 years this year, was it?
22 for the army, and I would have been last year.
Yeah.
January 2022 would have been my get out.
So that's a big thing, isn't it? After being in for 22 years and having things done for you and with you, rather than you coming out and kind of getting a mortgage, living with your family, getting a job, all that stuff. It's a scary thing, isn't it?
It is. And when I got out after 14, I think part of why I suffered with depression was kind of the lack of structure and the lack of purpose of what to do and where to be. And I had to do all this on my own, and I didn't have that network anymore. I had friends and family, but the network of the military support that I had all gone.
So
can I say?
Yeah, of course you can.
So I think transition is a real issue, exactly as John just described. While you're serving in the military, you have got an extended family. You all go to Iraq and Afghanistan, and you can't really complain that you've had a bad day when everyone else has had a bad day. When you leave the military, you're leaving that behind. It may well be that you joined the military to escape from something, and you'll be going back to whatever you were escaping from. So, I think transition is a particular time of difficulty for the veteran. John talked about using alcohol. Unfortunately, in the military, alcohol is widely used. And unsurprisingly, when you leave the military, you go on using alcohol, which I think you'd agree is not a good coping strategy. So a particular time of stress is for the person that's leaving the military.
Yeah, and so if and forgive my stupid questions, but if somebody was discharged today and they were discharged to the area where our practice is, would they be given any local support network? So would they know where the British Legion have a lunch club? Do they get that?
So the answer is no. First of all, when a bloke's leaving the military, they're not thinking about their GP. They're not thinking about those sort of issues. They're wary people. I'm going to be fine. I don't need any help. So although there's a program that you go through when you're leaving the military, it doesn't really hit you until you do leave. And exactly as you've said, they're unlikely to know about what resources might help you. A breakfast club would be an excellent example. At the discharge medical, the military GP is likely to encourage the veteran to register with a veterans friendly practice, and they are made aware of those practices that are veterans friendly. But at the end of the day, as John described, you tend to just sign up with your local GP. So it's a problem area, and the trouble is you don't realize it's a problem until it's happened. So
I guess as practices, the kind of follow-up message out to, I'm just thinking about what else could we do. So we get someone who says, I'm a veteran, first time I've registered outside of the services. We could Accurix them back, or I'm sure other products are available other than Accurix, with a list of, right, in this area, these are the things that might help you. And that wouldn't take a massive amount of effort for us, would it?
Okay, not at all. And I would actually suggest someone else to do that for you, and that's your social prescriber.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what the social prescriber will do. You know, you're well aware of big charities like SAFA and BLESMA and Help for Heroes, but there are actually more than 2,000 military charities. So, you know, a social prescriber attached to your practice, you know, a good task would be what resources are available locally. So that would be a really good thing for your social prescriber.
Yeah.
I've been involved with social prescriber training, and the care of veterans is in their curriculum. So the other thing about a veteran, you know, listening to John, you know, he talked about his physical problem. He talked about the fact that he wasn't drinking too much. He alluded to it was a strain on his marriage. So, you know, that when a veteran has got a problem, it tends to be lots of problems, and involving the social prescriber would be a really good thing to do, because they're good at bringing those bits of the jigsaw together.
Great, thank you. And I think just my next question was really to John. Is there anything else that we're kind of missing? Would that kind of support have helped you?
Yeah, I suppose that the thing that I'd like to see being developed is just a bigger network of groups that can talk to each other and find information and share information, come up with best practices and just spread them around. You know, like I said before, I was fortunate in where I landed with my GP, and you know, it's really helped me, and I just wanted that or would like that for everybody else.
Yeah. So we have, as the Institute of General Practice Management, we have lots of WhatsApp groups, and one of them is about practice development. So I'm going to start a chat this afternoon after we come off this call, and I'm going to get people to start thinking about these additional things that we can do, like, you know, maybe setting up some kind of standard messages that we can send out to everyone who says they're a veteran, and reminding people to add the veterans family on our registration forms today.
And one particular thing that did occur when the Afghanistan withdrawal was on, I got a text message from the GP's practice which said, "We understand that this can be emotional for veterans. If you need to get in touch with us, here's our number." And that was a
Wow.
text message that went out to veterans from the practice.
Gosh, that's
and like,
amazing, isn't it?
yeah, and it's just little things like that, things that are going on in the world right now, you know, they certainly do impact us. Things around bonfire night
Yeah.
as well, you don't think about, but I sit with headphones like this on during the build up to bonfire night, because that sudden big crash outside the window can really impact you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's one of the known things, isn't it? But I would never have thought to send a text message out about other conflicts. So that's you know, that's definitely something for us to learn from. And if you know, getting that message, it doesn't make you feel like you're being kind of singled out. It makes you feel like you're being included.
Yeah, and it sort of kind of validates what you're feeling inside, because it is an emotional time, you know, the sacrifice of people who went over there, and then to just see it. I mean, it probably wasn't meant to be a bit of a chaotic withdrawal, but just coming away from that, you know, it kind of, there were people thinking, well, what was it all for in the first place? So having a message from the GPs to say, you know, we're here to talk if you need it, kind of made you think, well, yeah, I'm not being over the top about this. They understand that, you know, it is impacting us and it could be a trigger.
Yeah. And you've obviously, you know, you shouldn't be lucky, but you have been lucky with the practice that you've linked with. And you said someone in particular has an interest in military health. But Robin, in a practice team, it doesn't have to be a GP, does it? It could be anybody with that interest.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. A clinical lead, and there's usually someone in the practice who's a clinician who's got some sort of military connection. So, you know, typically in the practice, you're the practice manager, so you can fill in the form. Clearly, you would want the partners to support this as a good idea, but it doesn't need to be a GP that's the clinical lead. So, you know, there isn't one answer. They need to be a clinician, and that's a very broad term, and they need to work for the practice. So probably not a trainee who's going to be moving on.
Yeah.
And it's not meant to be an arduous task. It's just that you're veterans friendly, you've signed up to it, and you want to make a difference.
I'll tell you what mine's always helped me with is language. So when you get two veterans together, they talk in a totally different language than I understand. But as soon as I get, so here at this practice, it's a nurse actually. And as soon as he talks to a veteran, and we have, because we look after homeless healthcare, we've got so many veterans that are on the streets. They just talk in something I don't get. So it's really helpful to have that kind of language is broken down.
I completely understand that. And it's just, I really think that the veteran will be interested in the fact that you're interested in them. And they don't expect you to be a world expert in some of the language that's used. I'm quite pleased that you don't understand all the language that veterans use, to be honest, Kay, as a lady. But I don't think that should be a barrier. Showing that interest is what it's about. And then being able to realize, look, I don't know too much about this, but I know how to refer you to Courage.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Right, I'm conscious we normally try and finish within 45-50 minutes to give people a chance to go off and actually eat as well. And I know, Robin, you've come straight out of your clinic. So the kind of one thing that we should do, so it should be sign up if we've not. So we want people to sign up and to display that we're veterans friendly with pride.
Absolutely. I think you find it's a good group activity. While I get judged on the numbers, we've been evaluated by Chester University, which showed that this really does make a difference to the care of veterans. It's a good team activity, and practices that have accredited would recommend it to others. It also will help you with your CQC visit. So, all those things are positive. For me, I want to be judged on the fact that I've improved the healthcare of veterans. And there's really good evidence that by being accredited, that's what you'll do. Okay, there are a couple of questions on the chat, which I'm happy to pick up if you would like me to, only if you want.
Yeah, I was going to ask Jo to come in and answer some of those, if she's collated them, that would be great.
So the program is for those that say it served in the UK Armed Forces. So, you may well have an asylum seeker who's come from a different conflict. Unfortunately, we're not talking about those veterans. It's someone that served in the UK Armed Forces, but that could include a Commonwealth soldier or a Gurkha from Nepal. So it's anyone that served in the British Armed Forces. I do accept, I live in Birmingham. There's a large population of asylum seekers. Most of the men that are asylum seekers will have been through a very similar experience to John and myself, but I'm afraid they're not part of this program. Okay. There's another question about PCNs. I get judged on the number of practices accredited, but absolutely, we're working with PCNs to encourage at least one practice in the PCN to be accredited. And one of the people on the call today is a chap is able to help you, and I'm more than happy if there's any PCN approach to have the same conversation at a PCN type level. I think we've dealt with it 1 day or more, but the majority serve 10 days. Very happy to work with the PCNs. When you're making a referral under Op Restore, you do need to know the military number. There is an issue that not everyone that's a veteran says they're a veteran, but on the whole, if there's a military number there, then that will be accepted. And I think we've covered overseas soldiers, so people that are from the Commonwealth, they've been in the British military, they're included in the programme.
That's fabulous, thank you.
There's a couple more questions, Kay, I think, if that's okay, Robin, that we could answer. One is there like a toolkit for the RCGP that we could have posters and things like that to display?
Yeah, so that comes in your accreditation pack. So with your accreditation pack, you get a poster or a screensaver.
Great. And the second one was like, some people are saying we're already registered, but we want to be much more proactive about engaging. Have you got any ideas about things that we could do to sort of engage more with our veterans?
Yeah, there's more podcasts coming.
Oh, really?
Brilliant. And we send a newsletter every couple of months.
Brilliant.
So really keen for that. And you're also going to be asked if you're more than 3 years, just to make sure that we've got the clinical details of the practice manager and the clinician who's the clinical lead to get the details right.
Excellent, thank you. That's brilliant. That's it, I think, Kay, from the chat. Thank you.
Fabulous. So thank you again, and I must say again, thank you from all of us, for both of you for coming along, but also thank you for your service. And I promise that there will be at least one practice, that's mine, doing something different after today. But we've got we've had about 100 people on this afternoon, and I know lots of people will pick this up afterwards. So you've made a huge impact on lots of practices. So thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for your service.
Listen, not at all. And in the chat, Carson Black, who I work for, is working with the PCNs on exactly what we've been talking about at a PCN level. So Carson Black, his email is in the chat, and he's more than happy to help PCNs. Listen, thank you very, very much for having us. You know, this time of the year, leading up to 11th of November, we do think of our veterans, and I really think that you can make a difference to your veterans by being an accredited practice. Kay, thanks very much, and I look forward to the invite in a year's time.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Robin. John, thank you for being so honest with us and sharing your story. Appreciate it.
Cheers, thank you. And I hope in a year's time there's going to be somebody different to me telling a story about how they've benefited from a practice that's signed up based off this.
Yeah.
The chat's going mad with thank you so much and how amazing it's been and how interesting. So thank you so much. It's brilliant.
All right. Take care. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks for having us.